I can't aim. I mean, I think anyone I've ever played Minecraft with can back me up on this in the fact that I don't have any PvP related skills at all. I mean, this is nowhere near a bullseye. So how can I improve my shooting skills? Well, I can think of a couple of ways. Maybe I could practice for hours and hours. Maybe I could get closer to the target block in question. Or maybe I could scale the target block up so that it's massive. So this is a very stupid idea that has no practical reason to exist, other than it's going to be a lot of fun. And sometimes that's what Redstone's about, having as much fun as you can with the components that are provided. So I've created this massive cube here, and the idea is that this is going to be our target block, and I think this is going to be a lot easier to get a bullseye. But of course we need to detect where the player shoots, and to do that I think we're going to use a bunch of target blocks positioned around the border of this thing. So we've got to figure out how we can actually get an output from a target block. So there are a variety of ways to do this. One of them is using a redstone comparator. One of them is just using redstone dust. Or we could use a lamp. But this is something I haven't tested yet. Can we use an observer to detect the output? So let's hook up a lamp to this and see if we actually can. And we actually can. We do get a double pulse though. But I don't think that's going to be an issue. And what we can actually do then is have a bunch of these tiled next to each other, like this, and we can get an output from each individual one without it interfering with the rest of them. So that way we can detect how close to a bullseye a player gets, which will allow us to do some funky things. Obviously, we're going to want to be able to detect the redstone output and give a signal strength depending on how close to the bullseye they get, which is the regular target block functionality. But also, I've got some special stuff planned in case the player gets a bullseye. So I think the first thing to do is actually to line this with target blocks like so. So let's do that and see how it looks. I've built up this, which I feel is a pretty good representation of the target block. As you can see, we've got a grid of target blocks around there, and then we've got some red stripes signifying the stripes on the target block itself. And of course, I've replicated this on all of the sides. So we've got 5 visible sides here, we've got the 6th one hidden underneath, so I've replicated on all of those sides. But of course we haven't done any of the redstone yet, so we're going to head inside, and it's pretty dark in here, but we're going to basically be doing some redstone within here to output a different signal strength based on where the player shoots. So with some night vision applied, we can now begin working on the design, and I think I'm going to start with this face over here. Now we're going to encounter some problems in the corners, since we've got 3 target blocks that all output to the same space, and I think instead of using observers for this, I'm going to use a lamp which I then detect as an observer. But I'm going to leave that for now and actually start here in the middle, because this is going to be the easiest part to detect. But we can hook up one observer to each of these target blocks over here, and I'm going to do some redirecting and I'll come back to you once I've figured it out. I've started hooking up all of the lines, so as you can see I've tried to color code it as much as possible. So the blue line is this outer layer here, and that is all linked up down the sides, along the bottom and along the top. And then the light blue is the inner ring of that same circle, which will power through the light blue line. We've also left a gap in the middle, which will allow us to take an output through our center block, which will be the bullseye. And now I've got the more difficult job of trying to replicate it around the edges. I'm not yet sure if I'm going to be able to do it for all of the sides, or whether we're just going to do it for one of the sides, but I'll see how it pans out, because I don't think there's going to be enough room in here. It's looking really rather cool actually, and I'm currently in the process of hooking up the yellow line, and then I have one more line which will be the green line, which will go around the outside. And I have come to the verdict that we're not going to be able to do this for all the sides, unfortunately. We're probably going to be able to do it for this side and this side, but not the top or the other 2 sides. Although I do think that's fine, because generally you'll be viewing the target block from one direction. So I'm going to get on and do all of the green redstone and finish up the yellow redstone, and then I'll get back to you. And this is all the lines hooked up. Now it does look really complicated, but in actuality it's just a bunch of redstone lines hooked up together, just dodging each other with observers powering from the target blocks. So we've got our green line, our yellow line, our dark blue line, our light blue line, and then our bullseye line. And each one of these will need to generate a different signal strength on the output. And I think the next step is actually to decide where we're going to put the output. So this is going to be the side that we view it from. So I guess we've got to get some redstone dust from our creative inventory, or maybe even a repeater or a comparator. And we've got to find somewhere to output from. So we could just output from here. I mean, that's perfectly valid. That doesn't look like a good location to me. So if we go inside, we're going to need to have some redstone through here. And we're going to need to power the redstone comparator. And I guess we'll replace these floor blocks with whatever block we want. So this is the line, this red line over here that we need to power. And we've got to power it from different points, depending which line is powering it. So I'm going to redirect now all of the lines down to this red line. Although it may actually be easier to redirect the red line up to the other lines. I've redirected this red line all the way up here, and I've preserved the signal strength using comparators down here and along here. So now we need to hook up all the different lines into this. So we've got our light blue line, we're going to have our dark blue line, our yellow and our green, and of course our bullseye. So our bullseye is going to generate the strongest signal strength, so I guess we will hook that right up to the side here. So let's hook that up now. So it will be full signal strength 15, like so, when you get the bullseye. So now I've hooked up the red line and the blue line, creating different signal strengths. It's time to do the dark blue line. So the dark blue line is going to power it here, so we now need to redirect the signal up. And actually, it's going to be easier if I take it from this side, so that we can redirect it more easily over to the correct location. So just like this. So we've done that. Now we need to hook up the yellow line next, so that's going to be the next weakest one. And actually for this, I think we're going to probably have to do some more signal strength preserving. So we can do something like this, and then we can have some more red line over the top. And this is where the yellow and the green will power. So I believe now I've actually hooked up all of the redstone lines. They are 2 blocks apart, so each one will have a signal strength of 2 less than the other. So we'll have 15, we'll have 12, then we'll have 9, then we'll have 6, and then 3, and then of course 0. So let's head out and give it a test. This is the first time I'm testing it, so it's probably not going to work. So I'll grab myself a bow and arrow, and then I'll give it a shoot. Okay, so first let's aim to the left-hand side. And we should see we get an output through here. And that's really promising. We haven't got an output at all. Let's do a test inside so that we can view what's going on. So we power our yellow line, and we get a very short pulse through. So I'm going to extend all of the repeaters to 4 ticks, because the comparator doesn't respond to the short pulse. It's generated by the observers. So hopefully that should fix the issue. So now let's shoot a yellow target block, and we should actually get an output coming through. And we do get 2 outputs. So I'm wondering if we want some sort of pulse extender. I've actually switched over to using pistons rather than the repeaters that I was using before, because this will eliminate the double pulse effect that we were getting. So when we get the first pulse through the line, it will extend the sticky piston and put the block over here, since it's a 1-tick pulse. And then once we get the second pulse, it will trap the block, since it's a 1-tick pulse. And that way we'll only get a single pulse through this line. So I think it's time to give it a test. So let's head out to the front, find my way out to the front, and let's do some shooting. So let's shoot the border now, and we should hopefully just get 1 pulse of the correct signal strength. But we didn't get anything, did we? And now after doing a fair bit of fiddling out with the redstone, I think I've got it working. So if we shoot on the outer layer, we get a signal strength of 3. If we shoot on the layer next to that, we get a signal strength of 6. If we shoot on the next layer in, we get a signal strength of 9. The next layer in, and we get a signal strength of 12. And finally, if we get a bullseye, we get a signal strength of 15. So this is a lot easier to shoot than a regular target block, and I think we're much more likely to get a bullseye. But as we know, we're only representing it based on the signal strength, so I'm going to hook up a bunch of lamps to this so that we can see it more easily displayed. But I think we also need to do something special if the player gets a bullseye. I've now added in some lamps over here which will indicate how well the player does, and I've also added a special feature for when the player gets a bullseye. So let's hit the outer layer, and you can see we get only 3 redstone lamps to light up, and if we hit someone in the middle, you should see we get significantly more of the redstone lamps to light up. So this does indeed have the target block functionality that you've come to expect from a target block. And yeah, it works really well. It also looks really cool from all angles. I really like the way this looks, and I feel like it represents the model of the target block pretty well. But now it's time to test the final feature, which is the bullseye. So let's aim to the center and shoot. And of course, we get some fireworks just like that. And then the target block blows up. Because if you can shoot a bullseye, then you're obviously too good for a target block this big.